Hey guys, this is Matt and welcome back to another very exciting tutorial. I'm just ripping off Andrew Kramer there, but yeah, he just intros his shit so well. Anyway, so here we are with EDIUS 6.5 once again, my favorite NLE, and we're going to be doing some pretty cool stuff. We're going to be making this scene here. The reason why we're doing sort of compositing stuff in EDIUS is because, well, with a shot like this, it's pretty easy. And I was actually sort of forced to do this because yeah, so let's have a look at the backstory. So I just finished shooting for a feature film called Only the Young Die Good, written and directed by Dominic Deacon. Check it out, onlytheyoungdiegood.com.au. It's an awesome film shot with a Canon 5D Mark II. Took me a while to shoot it and had a lot of fun. But anyway, I had to get a shot of the moon. A lot of this film is at night, and so filming the moon is actually quite a difficult thing to do because the moon is very, very bright. And if we have a look at the shot that I actually did get, here it is here. So there were trees, you know, nice silhouetted trees. There was a couple of stars, and there was even clouds. But as you can see in this footage, there ain't nothing but a moon. Now, why is that? Well, mostly because there wasn't enough clouds covering the moon. But I'll tell you what it was, is the moon is so damn bright. That's a lot brighter than you think. And because if you want to expose for the moon and get this nice detail, which I have here with the craters and the detail and that, that means you're going to underexpose everything else a hell of a lot. Which means you're then going to have to add things in post or shoot HDRX on your Red camera, which I didn't have on me at the time. So I thought to myself, well, this should be fairly easy, and why not use the stills capability of my DSLR and take a 21 megapixel image. Yeah, and we'll play with that. So what we're going to do now is just quickly jump into Photoshop and have a look at that 21 megapixel image. So here it is here, and we got to shoot in RAW, so that's beautiful, which means we can play with exposure. And you know, I really did protect the highlights in that moon so we can see a lot of detail, blah 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 blah. So the point is though, this image is 21 megapixels, keeping in mind that a Blu-ray disc is 2 megapixels. So even though the image circle of that moon matches the same image circle as my video here, if we go to File, New, and create a new still image of 1920 by 1080, and then we just drag in that raw image and just have a look at how big the moon really is, yeah, I got pretty excited. So there it is there, and what I liked about it is, it's not actually round. I don't know if that's my old lens doing that. Speaking of old lens, to get this shot I needed a 400mm lens, lens that I don't have. But what I did have was a 80-200 f4 Nikkor lens from the 80s, which cost me $100, and it's freaking awesome because at f5.6 it's super duper sharp, has beautiful contrast, beautiful bokeh, and the one thing that I love about it as well is it has this ability to crash zoom without losing focus. So that's really, really cool, and I got an action film that I'm shooting soon that I'm going to be using that a lot. I also use this teleconverter, which cost another $100. It's a 2x converter. So these tools from the 80s, they really help kids from today. So get on that if you're on a budget. Next thing is, so we're going to go back to Photoshop real quick and just have a look at what we have here. So potentially at full resolution I could have a moon that size, but I figured that it's going to look a little unrealistic maybe for this film, so I backed it off a little bit and I just exported a still at about 8 megapixels for EDIUS. So we can close Photoshop now and jump in and have a look at that. So as you can see here, I created like a little moon scene, and if we have a look at my stills here, I actually posted a couple on Facebook, and I kind of lied and said that, oh, where the hell, what am I doing? And I kind of lied and said that, you know, that I shot these stills, well, you know, I alluded to the fact that I shot these straight out of camera, which is an absolute lie. These clouds were not here, and the moon was not that big, nor was it placed there in the scene. So I made all of this in EDIUS, and I made it with basically 2 simple images. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go over to my bin here and go to Sequences. Notice I like to stay nice and organized. I'm going to right-click in my bin and go New Sequence, and then right-click on that sequence. Choose sequence settings. I like all my sequences to start with spiky brackets, and we're going to call this sequence Moon Madness, and close the brackets. Actually, I've already done that there. Let's delete that one. And alright, so let's double click Moon Madness, and you can see we have a blank slate. So I'm going to delete this VA track. I freaking hate VA tracks. Delete that. And you know what? I'm going to turn my audio off. I don't really need audio. And I'm going to delete this title track because I don't need titles either. The other thing I need to do is add more video tracks. So I'm going to right click and go add V track above, and I'm going to type 5. And next up, what I'm going to do is go to my stills, and I'm going to grab my still of the moon. So we put that still down here. You'll notice by default EDIUS has put the still image at a 5-second duration. So what I'm going to do is go to the end of that 5 seconds, press plus on my numpad 500 for another 5 seconds, and press enter. Then I can just drag my clip and it'll snap to that. So now I have 10 seconds of moon footage that I'm going to create. Now if you have a look at the size of this moon, it's a little bit too small. Remember that I did bring in a fairly large image. I think, well, maybe not 8 megapixels, but it was about, I don't know, 4 megapixels. But the point is, if we click on the image and then go up to the layout tool, double click on layout, then we can change things like the position of the moon, the rotation of the moon, etc. And if we go to our presets over here, we can always reset that back to default. But what I want to do is go to the parameters and scroll down to scale or stretch, and you'll notice it's only stretched at 62%, which is not its full size. So I can go 100%, and now you can see it's quite a lot larger. It's almost like we had a 500mm lens. Well, let's go to a 600mm lens. I'm going to go 130%. And the beauty of EDIUS is we can resize that above 100% using a resampling method that is very, very nice. Lancos, or however the hell you say it, 3 high quality, is going to give you beautiful resizing results, and that's something really unique to EDIUS and really useful in this situation. So what I'm going to do now is just rotate that a little bit and put the moon on the other side. I don't know if the moon realistically can be seen like this, but who cares? So here it is. This is step 1. Here we have our moon looking nice and large. Looks like we had an 800mm lens here, and nice good detail, and yeah, good exposure so we can see all the cool craters and stuff on the moon. So the next thing we need to do is create a glow around the moon. Now, to create a glow around the moon, I figure there's a few different ways to do this, but what I really wanted to do was create separate layers for each element, just like you would in After Effects or any sort of compositing program, because that allows you to have more control. So how are we going to create layers? Well, if we need to have layers like we do here, we need to be able to see through each layer, and to do that we need an alpha channel. And let me show what I mean by that. If I grab this still and drag it underneath this clip, you'll notice we still can't see it, and that's because this clip with the moon, this still image, does not have an alpha channel. So this black portion of the image is actually a solid black portion, which means we can't see through it. So we need to fix that. So there's a number of ways we could do it. I mean, I could go to my effects, and I could go to mask, drop that on here, double click the mask, and what I could do is just, you know, draw a mask and make the opacity 0, everything outside the mask. Now you can see that if I go to my bin and drag the image in here, we can see behind it. I've created an alpha channel. But you can see even with my sloppy result, I've cut the edge of the mask, the moon off here. It doesn't look realistic. And you know, with some time, I could make that, you know, perfect. But I'll show you a much quicker and easier way. Now, what I'm about to talk about is a little bit tricky, and I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. So if you do need help and you want to sort of learn it more intensely, I urge you to visit my blog, mattscottvisuals.com, and just go down to the color section. And within this section, you'll find a whole bunch of free tutorials. They took me a long time to create, so but yeah, they're really useful, and a lot of people have been finding them helpful, so that's great. Thanks for all your feedback, guys. It's really nice. So anyway, particularly this EDIUS Transparency 3-set tutorial is going to teach you everything you need to know about what I'm going to rush through right now, so definitely check out that. Anyway, so what we're going to do, instead of cutting out the moon with a mask, we're going to cut out the moon using luminance values. So what I'm going to do is actually duplicate this moon track, and a quick way to do that is, I mean, we could click on it, press Ctrl C, move our cursor, press Ctrl V, but I find that too slow, so I'm just going to click, drag, press Ctrl, click, drag, press Ctrl, and here we have 3 copies. So the top layer, we're going to rename that and call that Moon Face. Now the middle layer, we're going to rename that and call it Alpha. Now obviously these names aren't necessary, but they definitely help because we're going to have a few layers here to deal with. Now the bottom layer is going to be called Moon Glow. Now the bottom layer, let's have a look at how we're going to achieve that. So I just thought a really quick and easy way to make this glow, why don't we just use smooth blur, drop that on the bottom layer, and let's crank the smooth blur right up. Okay, so now when I press OK, you actually can't see the blur, and that's because our middle track and our top track are blocking the blur which is on the bottom. So what I want to do is cut a hole using the moon. Now we're going to use what's called a track matte. Now, like I said, again, just visit my tutorial page and it'll teach you all about the track matte. But it's a very useful tool because what we're going to do is use luminance values to cut the hole. So here's my top moon face. We're going to drag track matte onto the transparency section of that video track. And straight away you can see we have a pretty cool glow. It's already happening. But you know what, I did notice something, and this sort of bugged me a little bit. If we turn off the glow, see the contrast shift in the moon? Without the glow, it's nice and contrasty. You can see the craters and the details. With the glow, it sort of gets washed out a little bit. To fix that, well, actually, more importantly, understanding what's happening here, is we're telling this top track to use transparency of this middle track based on its luminance. And if we just have a look at this middle track, the luminance varies quite a bit on the moon. So basically what we're saying is anything that's pure white will cut a hole, and anything that's grey will sort of cut a hole. It'll cut a sort of semi-transparent hole. So what we want to do is make that moon completely white. Quick way to do that, drop the UV curve on it, grab your UV curve. Like I said, if I'm going too fast, just visit my blog, and there you go, we have a perfectly white alpha channel mapper, and bang, there is our glow. Now the glow for me was a little bit too small. I'll show you a really quick way to make that bigger. All we do is just grab the blur and just keep duplicating it. I mean, let's go with, say, like that much blur. So now we have a really cool, starting to look like realistic moon, and all that took was a bit of a glow. And so I know this seems like a long and lengthy process, but seriously, when you understand what's going on, you can whip this up in seconds. So next up, we want to grab our sky. Now here's the sky I got. Where did I get this sky? I didn't shoot it. No, I stole it from a stupid daikini from Google. So let's have a look at Google, and we type clouds in Google, and we go to images, and as you can see here, we have a multitude of clouds. So many you can choose from. I mean, you can really create any sort of style you want. Remember, we're turning these into nighttime clouds. I mean, this one is particularly realistic, but it completely is up to you. So grab a nice image. I would suggest grabbing one that's quite high resolution, and you'll see why in a second. Remembering that our project is 1080p, which is only 2 megapixels, mind you. And so what we've done is we've grabbed an image which is about 4 or 5 megapixels. And if we drag that down to our timeline, and we just stretch it out to fit our track, what we can do is click on that image, go to the information, double click layouter, and now if we scroll down, we can see that the stretch configuration is only set to 1/3. So that means there's still a lot of information, there's a lot of pixels here we can play with before we start interpolating. But once we do start interpolating, like I said before, we can always choose Lancos 3 high quality if we wanted to. But what I'm going to do now is try and replicate what I did on that other shot. So let's have a quick look here, because I feel like it was a bit of a fluke when I nailed those clouds. So here are our clouds, and let's just go back, change this to dual screen mode. And what I might do is just just have a look at this. I think these clouds here must be these clouds here. Yes, they are. So what we want to do is arrange them similarly. So here's my clip. Let's change back to one screen mode. And if I go to the information tab, go to the layouter, and what I'm going to do is go down to stretch, and we're going to make that about, say, 70%, and I'm just going to move this up here like so. And I think I had it about there, maybe something like that. But what I did do as well, and don't be afraid of doing this, I mean, these are just clouds, right? So there's nothing to tell us that they should be a certain aspect ratio, which means I can untick this preserve frame aspect, and I can just squish my clouds a little bit, and as you can see now, the clouds look completely different. And you know what? I think I like them like that. Yeah, I do actually. And so let's press OK, and here's our clouds. So obviously we need to cut holes out, make it black, make it nighttime, stuff like that. But before we do that, there's one important element to help add realism to this shot, and that's the slowly drifting clouds across the moon that you see in every movie. It's a must. So let's go back to the layout tool, and all we need to do is go to our timeline down here, and enable keyframes. So let's just click that top box there, all keyframes enabled, even though we're really only changing position. It's just a quick and lazy way. All keyframes enabled, making sure the timeline cursor is at the very beginning. That's very important. Now, we want to make this a very subtle cloud move. Remember, it's only 10 seconds here, but we don't want it to look unrealistic. So what I'm going to do is have my cloud start here. You'll notice as I moved it, keyframes were added automatically. Then I'm going to drag my timeline cursor to the end, and I just want them to sort of maybe go in that direction. Now you can see my keyframes have been added, and if I press play, you can see the clouds just moving along. How cool is that? Actually, you know what? I want the clouds to move away from the moon, so I'm just going to quickly delete that and delete that. And I'm going to have it start like there, go to the end, and then just drag it this way instead. Oh, you know what? I want a bit of up and down movement as well, not just left to right. So if we have that there, and we press OK and press play, here comes the clouds rolling out. But I feel like it's a little bit too fast. We don't want, we don't want this to look unrealistic. So here's the beginning position, end position. Let's just move that back a bit and have a quick look. Now remember guys, I know I'm going fast, but all this stuff is covered in previous tutorials in much more detail. I just wanted to give you an idea of how I created this look. So here's our moving clouds, great. Next up we want to go back to our effects, making sure we're still clicked on the cloud, and we're going to scroll down to screen. If we use screen, which is a blending mode, also covered in the keying tutorial, and we put that onto the transparency track of the clouds, you can see what's happening here. All of a sudden our moon pops into the scene. Pretty cool. Now the moon, I want to move that down a little bit lower now that I look at it. So what I'm going to do is go to my moon, and remember we've got 3 layers of this, so it might seem a little bit awkward, but we'll get there. And we'll go to the layout tool and we'll just move him down. So let's press OK. And there's our moon, but look, we've got a problem. Our glow and our alpha channel hole didn't move with it. So what's a quick way to fix that? Well, EDIUS is cool in the way the layouter tool is copyable to other tracks. So what we can do is go to that layout, drag it to that one, go to our layout, drag it to that one, and bang, they're all followed. So now you can see the moon is in a much nicer position, and let's have a look at our clouds move. It's not going to play in real time anymore, there's a lot of keying going on. Doesn't matter. Anyway, the problem is we're still in daytime. We want this to be nighttime. So what do we need to do? Let's go to our effects, drag this up, go to color balance, and drag that down onto the clouds pick. Now we go to color balance and we just completely desaturate the image by dragging the chroma slider to the left. So now we're starting to look a little more, well, not really like nighttime yet, but let's play with the brightness and contrast a bit, shall we? Let's just go a little bit crazy with this, adding quite a bit of contrast, and now we're starting to look like, oh yeah, now we're starting to look like nighttime. So I'm going to press OK. And hello moon, hello nighttime, we're almost there. We're almost there. So let's just have a quick look at that. It's definitely not going to play in real time, but it's starting to look pretty cool. So we're getting there, but it doesn't really look real just yet. Maybe because the exposure differences just aren't right. And if we have a look at the shot that I created earlier, it just looks a hell of a lot better. Why? Maybe my composition with the clouds is a bit nicer too. So let's just have a quick play with that. I'm going to go to my clouds and go back to the information tab, go to the layout, and you know what, I'm going to unstretch them. Maybe that was a bit bold. And I am actually going to make them larger as well. But now look what's happened. I've added keyframes here. So I forgot I had keyframes enabled, so I'm going to delete those keyframes, go back to my first one, delete the end ones, and now I'm going to unstretch, and I'm going to actually raise the entire size by holding shift to lock those proportions. And maybe that's going to look a bit better. Yeah, it's a bit. I like this composition with this negative space here. It's much nicer. Alright, and what I want to do again is just make those clouds move. So if we maybe have them starting to the left and down, and then they eventually move up to the right like so, I think that could look pretty cool. So here's our moving clouds, and now you can see things are happening. Pretty cool. So one thing too is I don't think the moon is overexposed enough, and that's not really helping with the situation. But also, what I also did with the other shot was I added an extra glow and an extra exposure shift to the surrounding the clouds that were closest to the moon. Now the way I did that was I duplicated this cloud track and brought it up top. Now you can see instantly that the effect is doubled, which is exactly what I wanted. But I'm going to even make the contrast even more, like so. And then what I'm going to do is use a mask tool. So I go Effect, Mask, and drop that on the top cloud track. Now with the mask tool, I'm just going to drag a circle around here. So this is the sort of area that I want to be affected by this brightness. And now on the outside of the mask, I want complete 0% opacity. And I also want to make the mask a really soft edge of about, say, 450 pixels. And I'm going to press OK. So now you can see we're starting to get a bit more depth, because I have that top layer showing the really bright portion of the clouds. And what that does is it helps this cloud especially. It really looks like it's being lit by the moon. Pretty cool. So we're getting there. This almost looks like a real moon shot. You can even see the clouds passing across the moon. I mean, this is awesome stuff. So what I didn't like though is I feel like my moon glow is not glowing enough. So what we could do is just go Effects, YUV curve, and we can just pump that up. So here's our glow. Let's just smash that up a little bit and crush the blacks a little bit. Press OK. Okay, it's looking pretty good. One thing I might do is just increase the exposure of the moon. So I'll go to the moon face, and just again I'll just grab YUV curve, and just with the luminance channel I'll just up that a little bit. I didn't want to lose too much of the cool detail on the face of the moon, but I do want this to look realistic, you know what I'm saying? So we'll press OK, and now we're starting to look like a realistic moon shot. So there we have it, guys. We have a pretty realistic moon scene. And you know, to download these files, I'm going to make them available on my blog, and you know, have a play yourself. It's pretty simple stuff. But what I really want to teach you guys is not necessarily these techniques, because once you learn an NLE, you know, very well, and you go to Andrew Kramer's site and you learn all about this stuff and compositing and effects, it's very exciting. But one thing I find that's even more important than that is to actually have the idea in the first place. So I was out shooting the moon, and straight away I thought, hey, this is possible. I know I can get a better shot compositing this scene myself than if I was to shoot with the equipment that I have in video. So what I want to teach you guys is to start thinking about how you can use post skills to get really cool effects. So sorry I haven't made tutorials for a while, guys. There's a lot in the pipes. I've been doing a lot with DaVinci Resolve, and you know, there's some exciting things with EDIUS as well. I've been over to Japan and chatting with the engineers and talking about how to make this software even better than it already is. So stay tuned for more, keep being creative, and have heaps of fun. My name's Matt Scott, and I'll see you soon! Haha, just joking. I just thought, what about if we put stars in this shot? How easy is this going to be? I just went straight to Google, and anyway, I typed stars, as you might have guessed. And anyway, so I got these stars, and the image was freaking massive. It was like 20 megapixels or something, and I'm pretty sure it's made on a computer, so these aren't real stars, but that's not the point because they look real. And let me show you how damn easy this is. So I'm going to drop stars on the top track and just drag that out so it fills the duration of 10 seconds, and I'm going to go straight to screen, drop screen on here, and bam! Check it out. We have a moving, legit looking Hollywood moon scene that could be in the next Twilight. Yeah!